Hello everybody. In this video I want to show you how to add things to your Meet the Ancestors website in several different ways. We're going to add material to the page, we're going to create new pages, we're going to make sure that the world can see our changes, and we're going to add, and you'll see that all I have stored is an image, and of course if we're going to do that we need to make sure that the world can see the material that we're put on there. Let's start by opening up clicking the website and changing the text, just the first, and by clicking on changing image of a new website, change that image to something else. Let's just do that quickly. Maybe this one. Select. You'll see that it says it's adjusting. It'll try and get the best balance between the text and the image, so it may change your original image a little. So now we have a blank page in our website. This is going to be the home page which welcomes people to our site. So we might want to start with a welcome message. So I'm going to double click in the white space, and here you can see a little disc with some options on it. And at first I'm just going to put in some text. So I'll put the word welcome. And I have a choice here between leaving that as normal text or making it bigger, title, heading, subheading. So I'll go with title. And to the left here, I also have a palette which allows me to change how that's going to look on the screen. So now I've changed it to look like this. Maybe that's too close to the banner image, so I'll maybe just go down to that. And so you can drop in by pasting in text that you've already written elsewhere and format that. You can put text in multiple columns because as you add text, it gives you an adjustable area to put your text into. So as you move it, you'll see that you can line it up along a grid which becomes visible. So maybe I'll have some text next to that now. And lastly, a third column here. So now I have 3 columns of text. And let's just put in some text from, I'll steal this from Delphine's site. So let's take this text here, come across to our page, paste it in here. There's too much in here, so I'm going to lift some of that, cut it, paste it into here, and then lastly take out the next third. And I've been lucky, I've judged that just about right. The reason for this is that when we're seeing this on a mobile phone or an iPad or another screen size, this will now look nice. We can always check that, by the way, by coming to the top of the page and clicking on the preview. And here we'll have a chance to see how this looks on a computer, on a tablet, or on a mobile phone. And now you can see the text runs nicely, even on a very small screen. We add images in a similar way. So at this part of the screen I might want to put in an image, and this could be an image that I already have on my computer or on a memory stick, or we could search for it or find it on the internet in some way. So let's just put something on from my computer. Let's look in my downloads folder, and let's put in that picture. Upload, and now that picture's been added, and I can now put in text alongside it if I want to, in the same way as we did before. So that's how we add text and images to a page. We don't need to worry at all about the permissions, the permission settings of that stuff, because we're adding it to this page. What we do need to make sure, however, is that the world can see this site. If we come up to the Publish button and click on it, we'll see that we have a chance now to give our site a name. I'll call it Test Site, and decide whether this is restricted to inside our organization or anyone on the web, which is what we want because we want anyone to be able to see it. And allow my site to appear in search results. And then publish that. Now each time you make changes to your website by adding new pages and adding new material, you need to publish to make sure that those changes are visible to the world. Let's add another page now. On the right hand side you can see this vertical menu which is currently showing me all of the things that I might insert into a page, and we'll come back to some of those other things in a moment. Here we can look at pages, and we'll see that we only have one page at the moment, but there's a button here that allows us to add another page. So let's say second page and add that and wait for Google to treat that page, and just wait for Google to have processed that page. And maybe this second page is going to have some subordinate pages underneath it. So let's add a first section, and once that page has been made, I actually want to nest it underneath my second page, but just by hovering there you can see that it will now add it as a child of this parent. Now if I want to add second section, you'll see the same thing. It adds it as a primary page at first, but then by just hovering over the one we want it to be associated with, we now have it as a child of this parent. And we can test that by seeing up here at the top that our second page has a drop-down option which allows us to see first section and second section. We can have the menu appearing horizontally here, or if we come across to the cog and change it to side navigation, then our site will now have navigation down the left-hand side. We can test that by going to Preview, go into, say, the web, and now you can see that the menu is apparent on the left-hand side rather than at the top. That's your choice. So we've seen how to make pages and how to add text and images to the page, but you will want to add the material that your children and you have produced. So let's go on to this second page, which is at the moment empty. And let's put in our image. So we'll change the image to the one that we're using. Doesn't have to be the same on every page. And now we're going to insert something on this page which is coming from Google Drive. So let's start with a single document. Now I'm going to go from Drive and look at the various things that I could put on this page. Let's start with a presentation which is still in Microsoft format. And I can resize that to make it align nicely. And you'll see that because it's in Microsoft format, PowerPoint, it's actually showing me this document as and you'll see that because this is in Microsoft format, it's actually showing it to me as almost like a scrolling PDF document. And we might prefer to have that as a slideshow. So let's put that one in the bin, and if we look in Drive, you could see, for instance, that I might take a PowerPoint. Let's see, I'll borrow one from La Cachette. Let's take this presentation of country and department. If we right-click on that and say Open with Google Slides, we'll get a Google Slides version of that same PowerPoint. And this, when we insert it, will behave differently. So let's try that again. Insert from Drive. And this time I'll choose it as a Google presentation, not a PowerPoint, and insert it. And let's resize that and put it in the middle of the screen. Okay, and now when we look at the preview, you'll see that we have a presentation here which allows people to step through the slideshow. There is one thing that we need to check though, and that is that the material that we're putting inside the page, we've already made our site public, but now we need to make sure that the material we're putting in the page is public as well. So let's right-click on that presentation and look at the sharing rights. And what we'll see, if we come down to advanced, what we'll see is that it's set to specific people can access. And that means it's only these people listed below who can access that document. That isn't good for the whole world. We need to change that so that it says either public on the web or anyone with the link. We save those changes, and now the world will be able to see this presentation, not just a few people who are listed. We can test this by coming out of preview mode. Remember that we need to publish our changes to make them live, and at the bottom you'll see that it says your site has been published, and there's an option to view the finished site. Now that's okay, but I'm already logged into my Google account here, so of course I can see the material. What we need to do is copy that address and open up another session on the internet using Chrome's incognito mode. So I'm in Google Chrome here, the browser that I'm using to reach the internet, and if I come across to the three dots in the top right hand corner and I click on them, I have a chance to open a new incognito window. Now that is something that is not visible to the other session that I'm running. In other words, this is a private session. It doesn't know anything about where I'm logged in elsewhere. And if I paste in that address and test it, we'll be able to tell if an anonymous viewer from the outside world will be able to see our site. Well, the front page looks as I wanted it. If we come to the second page, we should be able to see that presentation, and indeed we can. So the site appears to be working just fine because not only is the site published, but the material inside it has been made public, and that's the important thing. Let's get rid of the incognito thing, and we're now back to our test site. And the last thing I wanted to show you, let's do this on page first section. The last thing I wanted to show you is that you can insert a folder of material. So let's look for a Drive folder, and I'll drill down into, let's say, La Cachette, and look at Mobility England and insert. And what we'll show in here will now be the list of files that Delphine and her colleagues have put in there. And we can view that either as a list or as a set of thumbnails. But once again, we need to make sure that that folder once again, we need to make sure that that folder has the correct permissions. Once again, we need to make sure that this folder has the right permissions so that the world can see it. So we need to go into our Drive, go to the relevant folder, in this case it was this folder, right-click, look at Share, and we'll see, if we come to Advanced, that once again this is set to specific people. So putting that folder in a public website won't do any good because only the people on the list will be able to see the contents of the folder. In other words, what I would recommend you do, as you can see down here in St. Joan-Antibes, is that we make a public files for website folder, and you make sure that the sharing settings on that are set to anyone with the link can view. Let's check the advanced, and you'll see that at the top of the list here it says anyone who has the link can view. And that's important so that when we put that folder in a public website, everybody is going to be able to see it. So let's just see if there's material inside. There is a little material in there. The family trees folder is already in here, so let's put that in our site instead of the La Cachette one. So Drive folder, Partner Schools, St Joan Antide, Public Files for Web, Insert. And once again, I'll need to choose which kind of format I want. I'm going to have these as grid. Make it just big enough to see everything. And you'll see that this actually contains a folder within a folder. So you'd need to make sure that that folder is also set to be viewed publicly. When you're happy with your changes, publish them, and now the world will be able to see not only your site, but also all of the material in it. The last thing I wanted to show you was how to create a form and then embed that. So let's come back to our drive, into the public files. Let's go to Test School and go to New Google Form. I'll give this a feedback title. Have you understood and suggestions, add all, yes, no, maybe, required question, and that is now, let's say I have many questions in there, maybe in different sections, and creating forms is remarkably simple. You can add sections and further questions. The questions can be of all different sorts, and when the responses come in, they're all gathered both in this form and in a spreadsheet where you can get at the data. But once again, we need to grab the link that could be used to send this out to the world. So let's take that link and copy it. Now we could send that out by email, but in this case what we're going to do is embed that in a new page in our website. So I'll come to the second section page, and in here I'm going to insert and come down to forms, put in this form that I've just created, insert, decide where to position that on the page, and when I'm ready, publish those changes to the web so that the world can now see this page and fill it in if we want them to. And so that's all you need to know really to build your Meet the Ancestors site. You've seen how to add pages, how to change the image at the top of the page, how to add text and images, how to add documents, and how to add folders of documents and forms, and importantly how to make sure that you've published your site so the world can see it, and you've shared the contents of the site by going to Drive and changing the permissions so that the things are anyone with the link can view. That way when people come to the pages on your website they'll be able to see the contents that you've put there.